I had so many people telling me, "He's okay. Everything's fine. There's nothing wrong. It's in your head. Just keep trying. It's normal." But in my gut, I knew something was not right because I know my kids. I knew that something was not okay.
Hey, Mama Bear. Welcome to the Breastfeeding with Confidence podcast. Do you dream of bonding with your baby through exclusive breastfeeding, but worry about breastfeeding pain or low milk supply? Maybe you're struggling with breastfeeding and no one seems to have any answers. I'm Jaimie, doula, international board certified lactation consultant, and mom of 5, and I have been where you are. After working through painful latches, milk supply worries, and postpartum depression, and supporting countless mothers through their breastfeeding journeys for over 8 years, I'm here to tell you breastfeeding doesn't have to be perfect to be positive. Each week, I'll share breastfeeding tips to help you prevent and overcome unexpected breastfeeding challenges so you can actually enjoy bonding with your baby. If you are ready to shut out the toxic whispers of the world, embrace your God-given intuition, and release your inner fierce mama bear, grab some coffee or your favorite herbal tea and let's dive in. Today, I am joined by one of my former clients, Chelsea, and I worked with Chelsea in 2023 and 2024. She's joining us today to share her real life breastfeeding story and her experience working with me through her son's tongue ties and complex medical issues. If you are wondering if there's anybody else out there feeling the feelings you're feeling, who has been through it and knows how all of this feels and has actually gotten through it and lived to tell the tale of breastfeeding success despite all of these feeding challenges, today you are in for a treat. Chelsea is going to tell us everything she went through, how we overcame it together, and where she is now, how she feels looking back on her experience. And I hope you find this really inspirational. Let's dive in. Hey, Chelsea, I'm so glad you're here today. Can you tell everybody a little bit about yourself and how we met?
Hi, my name is Chelsea. I have two boys. One is 5 and one is a year and a half. I met Jaimie through a mutual friend. During my breastfeeding journey, I had reached out for help and I was just sending to a friend, and they were like, "Hey, have you ever heard of Jaimie with Little Bear Lactation?" And I was skeptical. I had been just through the ringer with doctors and lactation professionals, and I was just feeling so hopeless. But I ended up reaching out to her, and that's where everything began.
When you reached out, I remember you being like, I am really skeptical about this
Yes.
because we worked together virtually because I was in Texas and you were in Oklahoma. And it just like we were actually about an hour apart. So we could have done in person, but it was really difficult. So we
Yeah.
did work together virtually. And a lot of people have hesitations about that. And I love to tell people that it's actually, I think some of my best clients with the best outcomes are virtual clients because they get
Yeah.
their hands in there and really understand everything. And we'll get to that in a minute. But first, I want you to tell us a little bit about what kind of, you said you were going through the ringer. Tell us a little bit about the breastfeeding challenges you had and what your goals were.
Yeah. So, first of all, my goal was exclusively breastfeeding at the breast. I didn't want to have to bring a pump. I didn't want to have to bring a bottle of formula. I didn't want to have to bring bagged milk. I just wanted to be able to latch them on and live my life. And that was so important to me. Like, I just did not want to carry that diaper bag full of supplies. So, to get me there, I started out seeing a lactation professional in the hospital. He basically had told me that his latch looks great and he would pull 2 ounces at a time and there was nothing wrong. He would just want to be latched on all day long, and he would scream and cry if he wasn't on my breast or if I didn't give him a bottle. And I had so many people telling me, "He's okay. Everything's fine. There's nothing wrong. It's in your head. Just keep trying. It's normal for babies to want to latch all of the time. It's just cluster feeding." But in my gut, I knew something was not right because I know my kids. I know like their temperaments. I knew that something was not okay. And that's when I realized he had a tongue tie. So
So tell us what that journey looked like for you, because you had seen some people, like you said, doctors before we met, and
yeah.
we kind of had to do a little bit of backtracking. So tell everybody kind of how that went down.
Yeah. So I went with this pediatrician who I adore. and she had originally looked in his mouth and said, he does have a tie, but the restriction is not great. She said, okay, but I will still refer you to ENT and they can take care of it. They'll just do a little snip snip. It'll be no big deal. And then you can continue as you wish. So I go to this ENT appointment and they're very low key, low stress. And they don't give me any prep work. They don't give me any exercises to do for his mouth. They don't even mention taking him to a chiropractor. So they snip it, they send us on our way, and eventually his tongue tie grows back. So it did absolutely nothing.
Did it do nothing? Did it get better or did it get worse?
No, it got worse. I was triple feeding him. So I would have to breastfeed him and then pump and then give him a bottle to make sure he wasn't losing weight.
And that's when we met, right?
Yeah.
So because I remember when we met, that's kind of where you were. You were like, well, I've already had the tongue tie released and it's like things got worse, not better. So like you said earlier, you were very skeptical. We started working together virtually. And I remember our first appointment, I was actually in Boston.
Oh, man.
I remember for your intake, I was actually out of state because we had a family emergency. And so that's another really great thing I love about virtual consults is you didn't have to wait for care because I had a family emergency. Like I was still able to support you despite having to kind of, we still had that flexibility. So after our first appointment, I know it's been over a year now, which is amazing. I know you probably don't remember all the details, but do you kind of remember how you felt after that first appointment?
Just like I actually had a fighting chance, and it was so nice to have somebody validate like my need to breastfeed him, because there's so many people that were around me that were like, just give him a bottle. It's not that big of a deal. If you can't do this, like you can just move on from this journey. And
it was a big deal to you. And
it was a huge deal.
Tell everybody why it was such a big deal, because with your first, you had a really, really difficult experience. And I don't know how much you want to share about that, but I think that background story is really important as to why this was so important to you and why like you learned to trust your gut over everything else.
Yeah, for sure. So there's so many ways I could tell this story. So my first son, who's now 5, was born premature at 31 weeks. And obviously, when you have a preterm baby, you want them to get the best of the best to thrive. And I tried to breastfeed him. I tried to pump, and I wasn't producing at all. And I didn't have any support then. I was a very scared first-time mom. It was in 2020, so the height of COVID. And the postpartum depression got me like ridiculously hard. I had anxiety. I was worried that my kid wasn't going to make it. Just the idea of being at least able to offer him some breast milk, it was a great thought, and it probably would have saved my mental health. But I didn't have the support. They told me to drink body armors and sit on a pump basically, and I just could not do it. So with Lincoln, my second, I really, really wanted to get that, like gain that power back and be able to offer him what I couldn't offer my first baby. Just not even being able to carry my first son to term, and then also not being able to breastfeed him. It was kind of redeeming to get that back with Lincoln. So
yeah. And I think that's so important for so many moms to hear is like, just because you had that really difficult experience with your first, that doesn't mean your story is over. It doesn't mean you're not capable of breastfeeding. It just means, like you said, like you might not be in the ideal situation with the right kind of support. And breastfeeding is a lot of puzzle pieces that have to come together. It is natural, but there are a lot of puzzle pieces that have to come together. And when people are actively taking some of those puzzle pieces away from you, and then some of them just weren't in the box in the first place, it becomes really
Mhm.
hard to put that puzzle together.
Mhm.
And that's not your fault.
Yeah.
That doesn't make it any less frustrating or heartbreaking either.
Yeah, no,
So
for sure.
fast forward, like you had like all these complications with your first, and I know your journey with him was so much more complex beyond that. But so you had all those complications, and now this is like your second chance. You kind of get a chance to
Mhm.
try this again, and everything's going sideways. We start working together. But working together, meeting with me one time, it was not a magic fix.
No.
It was not a magic fix.
Oh my
So
gosh.
how much work did you actually have to put into it? And what kind of kept you feeling like you could get through some of those things that I told you to do that you were like, this sucks and I don't like it?
Gosh. So we had to do an SNS. Love that. That was my breaking point. I was like, I can go get him a tongue tie release. I will go to the chiropractor. I will triple feed. Like I had been working night and day. I was losing sleep. I was having to have my husband do so many things for me. But then Jaimie introduced me to that SNS and I was like, I am done. I cannot do this. It was popping out of his mouth. I discovered that he had an adhesive allergy. He broke out in like little pin dot rash all over his body just from the tape on my boob. I was done. And then I think I was like, okay, it's gonna be okay. We had a session and you had me go in bed and you had me do side leg breastfeeding with the SNS. And you were like, Chelsea, you're doing it. And you look so good. Everything looks great. Look, he's latching, he's drinking. I can hear his gulping. The posture is great. He's aligned, like he's content, he's happy. And just your encouragement is what got me through the entire thing.
I remember that one so clearly. You were like, I'm done with this. And I'm like, I promise you it's not forever. Let's
Yeah.
just find the way to make it work.
No, you were like literally my best friend during that whole time. And I say that like without you, we would have not done that.
You're going to make me cry. I'm going to start crying.
Oh,
That's the thing, though. I think that is missing from so much of the breastfeeding care and support that we have available
oh.
to us is it's very clinical. And there is a clinical aspect to it. And obviously, there has to be like, professional boundaries and whatnot. But
Mhm.
breastfeeding is something that is so intimate. It is
Yeah.
not just a random medical condition that we're going to go have tests done and take a medication and fix it, right? Like it is
Mhm.
extremely intimate. It is extremely nuanced. It is extremely layered. And as women, we were designed to have this community around us, and we've lost that, right? So now
Yeah,
it's
for sure.
completely within the hands of healthcare professionals of some sort that are going to help you through this, whether it's a doctor, a lactation consultant, a nurse, whatever. But it's clinical. It's
Yeah.
clinical. There's not that personal level of like, this person is answering to me. They're here for me. They're
Mhm.
here to help. And this is what they're here for versus
Yeah.
like, oh, they've got 15 minutes to give me the time of day and they're trying to get on to the next person.
Mm-mm. Yeah.
And so I think when you say that, like, you were my best friend through this, like, that means so much to me because that is what I want the moms I
Yeah.
work with to feel. Like I want them to feel like they are seen, that what they're going through is personal and that I care. Like
Oh,
I
yeah.
tell people I answer to you and God. I don't answer to anybody else. And that is by design because I want to be doing right by you. And if,
Yeah.
just like a friendship, we might not always see eye to eye in how we're going to get to the next step. I'm going to give you my
Mhm.
wisdom, but I'm also going to give you the space to make those decisions on how the next step happens. I'm just
Mhm.
giving you the information. And when you said you were like, I'm over this SNS, we need to figure something out. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, well, let's start seeing what the other options are. If
Yeah.
you really are over this, let's see what the other options are. And now you know what the options are and you can figure out which one works best for you.
Yeah, for sure. And you were amazing. Like I'm so used to sometimes, especially like in the more crunchy community or in the nursing space, that moms are very judgy and they don't always accept the choices that you make for your kids. But you were never judgy. You were never judgmental. You never made me feel ashamed or have shame for just struggling. And instead of giving me, like, breast is best, Chelsea, it is. We all know it is. But you never said that to me. You said, Chelsea, you can do this if you want to. And that's so different from shame and guilt. And so
You're gonna make me cry. I'm gonna cry. I just like
you're the best. I love you. I love you so much.
So sweet. That's really sweet. I think that is a problem that a lot of moms have, or a fear that a lot of moms have that stops them from getting lactation support.
Yeah.
Is, you hear people talk about the breastfeeding Nazis or whatever. My motto is breast is not best, fed is not best, informed, supported, confident decision making is best. But in a lot of ways, it's like I do get frustrated with a lot of messaging out there because I feel like breast is best. But how can we scream breast is best in one breath and the next breath be like, oh, but you're not figuring it out. What's wrong with you? Like, just push the formula. Like,
yeah,
you can't have it both ways. If we're going to say breast is best, we have to make that accessible any way we can. We have to have support. We have to, honestly, I don't care. Like, money, bottles, pressure, back to work, all of that aside, the root of the problem is we're not listening to mothers. We're not listening to their instincts. Like you said, you were like, this is beyond cluster feeding. I don't know how to verbalize exactly what's wrong, but something is wrong. I know something's wrong. And everybody told you, like, no, you're crazy.
Yeah.
And I will always tell you, you are not crazy. Whatever is happening, you are not crazy. I believe you. I believe you.
Yeah. And it was so powerful for me because, even with Chandler, my preterm babies, I was being questioned left and right. I was made to think that I was crazy, and advocating for your baby as a first time mom is really intimidating, and feeling like you heard me when previously I had not been heard, and I felt like I was just out of my mind. It just felt so nice to have somebody say to me, "No, you're right. There's something wrong. Like, let me help you." And that's the key to all of this, to breastfeeding. You have to find the right support. Not everybody is a good lactation consultant just because
they have letters behind their name does
yeah,
not. Yeah.
you just have to find the right support. Everybody needs a Jaimie.
Aw. That's so sweet. No, gosh, I had like all these questions I was gonna ask you, and now I'm just like, oh, she's just being so nice right now.
You just really are. I can't say enough good things.
So breastfeeding was really, really, really important to you, and it was really, really hard for you. Was the fight worth it?
Yes. Yes. Oh my gosh. The bonding with my baby, like having that time with him and connecting with him and being able to provide something for him that nobody else can provide. Our connection is so strong. Like he's just my boy. Like he is a mama's boy, and I would not trade that for anything.
Yeah. And for those listening too, like another piece to your puzzle is he has like some complex medical issues, and I won't go into his personal medical history, but despite all of that, despite having to deal with surgeries and stuff, you were still able to keep breastfeeding.
Yeah. And gosh, there were so many there were so many things that I fought through. Yeah, he had a kidney surgery. I even had a back injury where I had to be in bed for a few months. It was all worth it. I would do it again. With all of those obstacles, I would do it again, 110%, like every single time.
So how old is he now?
He will be 2 in November, so he's about 16 months.
Oh my gosh, I know. And so you called me a couple of months ago and you were like, Jaimie, I'm ready to start weaning. And it's like, could you believe you made it that far? Could you believe you were calling me to say, like, I want this to stop?
No, I never, gosh, I mean, through all of those obstacles, there were definitely times where I was like, okay, is this it? Like, are we done? But it just wasn't right. And then I started work and I was like, okay, it's time. He's done with his surgeries. We're in daycare. It's time to let go. And that process was so easy too. Like when they're ready, you'll know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no, I'm glad to hear, like, Because you had questions about that process, and
Yeah.
you're saying it was easy, but I remember in the moment you were like, "What the heck? What is going on?"
I
So
was
look at that.
terrified.
You're looking back like that was easy. Yeah, it was hard, but it was easy. So
It was,
for moms who are kind of like
yeah.
in the thick of all of it right now, whether it's weaning, whether it is the beginning and nothing's working right, what do you say for them to give them hope that they can make it through?
Just keep going. If you want to do it, find a support system that values what you value. Find somebody to walk you through it. If my friends ever get pregnant or want to breastfeed again, like I hope I can offer them that support of just them knowing that I've been through this, I know what it's like, and I value that too.
Yeah.
So I can give them insights that I couldn't before. So get you Jaimie. That's what you need.
And for moms who are worried
I
about
just
virtual support with tongue ties and everything, what do you have to say about that? Because I know that's a lot, and moms get very hesitant and skeptical because it's like, okay, I've been working with this person right here that I take my baby to, and they can't figure it out. How is somebody who can't even touch us and help us going to help? And what did that do for your confidence?
yeah, part of the reason I was so skeptical is because it was virtual, and I was like, how could she help me on the phone? Like, how could she honestly know what our issue is and help us? But you're just magical. So, gosh, I'm just,
No, but you worked hard. You did a lot of the heavy lifting.
yeah, having somebody to talk me through it that knows what to look for. Like, you would be like, okay, Chelsea, go ahead and open his mouth. Like, what do you feel? What do you feel in there? How does it feel when he nurses? How is he latching to a bottle? And I remember he had bottles and he couldn't even empty them. And just being validated that that's odd, that he can't suck from a bottle and get anything out of it.
Which is a whole other side note, by the way. Everybody thinks like, oh, if your baby has a tongue tie, they can't breastfeed, just bottle feed them. Like that's not always the solution.
No, no, like we I had to get him like the fastest flow to be able to feed him, and he wasn't sucking on it properly. It was just filling his mouth.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No, it's complex. It's complex. But once I walked you through everything and you're the one who's actually feeling it and having to put words to what you're feeling, did that give you a deeper understanding of what you were dealing with?
yeah, knowing the anatomy of his mouth. Like, what am I trying to say here?
You just got a deeper understanding of why everything was happening and
Mhm.
why we were doing what we were doing to get results.
Yes. Yes, for sure. Gosh, it was like light bulbs every single session. Of like, oh, this is, why he's not gaining weight. This is why he can't eat from the breast. And you taught me like alignment of the spine and oh my gosh, the exercises for his mouth. So we go to the ENT and I ask, um, can you guys give me some exercises to do with him? Because my mutual friend had kind of warned me I would need to do those. He said it won't grow back. Just him eating and suckling from a breast or a bottle will keep his frenulum from growing back.
Isn't that crazy? It's like, but that requires elevation and he doesn't know how to elevate. Like if he's still not feeding properly, if he doesn't have the function to feed properly, then how is just eating going to be enough?
Just mind blowing. And that right there, if I had known and had gone with my instinct that I needed to do those exercises, that would have saved so much stress and time. And that was the missing piece that you provided. And that was all virtual and it was pleasant and easy. And I mean, the whole thing was hard and it took a lot of willpower. But now that I'm on the other side of it and I can see it for what it was, it was worth it.
It was worth it. It is worth it. And I've been there, I've been there every time with my babies and
Yeah.
it's so hard to go through, but it is worth it. And I work with so many moms that are just like, once they get through to the other side, they're able to look back and say it was worth it. But in
Mhm.
in that moment, if you're listening and you're in that moment where you feel like you don't know what the next step is, and all you do is Google things at 2 a.m., we can end that. We can end that. We can
Yes.
find a path forward.
Yes, for sure. I definitely had my Googling days. Google is not your best friend.
And what about between appointments when, like, how did you feel like between appointments when things were kind of hard, but you had messenger support and you were able to ask your
Mhm.
questions? How did that make a difference
Oh my
versus when
gosh.
you are just like going to the lactation consultant at the hospital
Yeah,
clinic?
yeah, for sure. I mean, you go to a hospital lactation support and you're there for 15 minutes and if you had a situation like me, they tell you everything's fine. They certainly don't give you a personal phone number where you can text them and ask them your stupid questions at 2 a.m.
That
That's
doesn't mean
stupid.
I'm answering at 2 a.m., people. It just means you
Mm-mm.
leave it there and I will get to it when I get to it, but I will get to it.
Yeah. No, we were not texting at 2 a.m., thank goodness. We were sleeping because our babies were well fed.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that's why I tell people so much of new motherhood. Yeah, there's sleep deprivation because your baby wakes up every so often and you
Mhm.
have to do that cycle. But I don't think a lot of people realize that a lot of the time they're staying awake is actually them worrying, stressing, and looking for answers on Google. By the time they fall asleep again, their baby's waking up again, and they don't even realize how much time they're spending doing that. And I've had moms tell me like I go back a week later and they're like, I slept for the first time this week. And I'm like, what was different? And she was like, well, I wasn't Googling things anymore because I knew
Yeah.
you had the answers. You already answered the questions. And
Mhm.
I think that's such a profound thing that people don't realize is some of that sleep deprivation can be prevented by just having the right support and not feeling like you have to. And I'm not saying don't question me because I want people to question me just like I would say to question any other provider.
Yeah.
But if you feel confident in the answers and the plan you have moving forward, you're not left up at night questioning things, trying to figure out what do I need to ask the doctor next time.
Mhm. It was nice to have that just immediate help and just to know that your specialty is breastfeeding and it is tongue ties. And um, I have my doctor's phone number. I have the pediatrician's phone number, but if I were to text her, it wouldn't be it wouldn't be the same. There's so much misinformation and bad advice, even from his pediatrician, who I absolutely love. Like I would never go to her with a question about breastfeeding.
And it's not to say she's a bad
Mhm.
pediatrician. And I feel like people kind of that gets lost in translation sometimes when we say like stop
Yeah,
asking your doctors for breastfeeding advice. It's not to say they're bad pediatricians, but they're not lactation consultants.
exactly,
Like you wouldn't
exactly.
ask your pediatrician if your baby had a complex heart issue. You would be going to their cardiologist with your
Mhm.
questions. You would be going to your baby has a kidney
Kidney.
situation. You
Mhm.
go to the kidney specialist for
Yeah.
those things.
Yep.
So for breastfeeding issues, why would you not be going to the breastfeeding specialist?
Mhm. Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. Well, I love chatting with you. It has been so long since we got to just chat. So
Yeah.
it's been nice to see your face. And you said some really nice things about me. So that was nice too.
Always.
But no, I really appreciate you coming on here. I appreciate your vulnerability. I appreciate your willingness to share your experience with other moms because I think sometimes, we can listen to the lactation consultant tell us all the things all day, but it doesn't really matter. It falls flat because at the end of the day, what other moms are going through is what we're
Mhm.
going to learn from. What other
Yeah.
moms are going through is what I'm learning from every
Yeah.
single day. Every mom I work with, I learn something new. So,
Mhm.
you being willing to share your story for other moms to just hear
Relate.
that, like,
Mhm.
first of all, they are not the only ones going through it. They're not the only ones feeling what they're feeling.
Mhm.
They're not the only ones saying, why is this not working? And how could this possibly work? Like,
Yeah.
all of those thoughts and concerns and worries are so valid. And just sharing what your journey looked like. And, everybody's journey is not going to be the same. I'm not going to promise that we're going to be able to solve all of your problems, but I can promise you that you can create a plan, you can understand what's going on, and have the freedom to make the decisions
Mhm.
that work for you.
Yep.
Because I think when we're working with these doctors that are, pressuring us to switch to formula, it's not a quitting breastfeeding in that situation is not a truly free choice
Yeah.
because you're not being given another option. I think
Yeah.
I've had moms that feel like very guilty that they ended up no longer breastfeeding after they work with me, and they were like afraid to tell me because they thought I'd be upset with them. And I'm like, no, it's a free choice. When you had all the information, it was a free choice. If you hadn't had all that information, it would not have been a free choice.
And that's how I felt with Chandler with my first. That was just completely stripped away from me. I felt like there wasn't another choice. But with Lincoln, you provided everything I needed to either continue or decide I wanted to stop.
And deciding to stop knowing that you've done everything that you possibly can, like at your, whatever your stress levels, all of that. If you knowing that you have done everything possible and you're choosing to quit versus being pressured into it. Yeah, because I hear so many moms say, like, oh, well, I had no option but to formula feed because my baby wouldn't latch. And this is not like moms I'm working with. This is moms who, their kids are 10, 15 years old now. And I always think about that. And I'm like, you had no other option because your baby wouldn't latch, but like, did you do this? Did you do that? And, I don't say it in like a judgmental way. I'll just like be curious, like, oh, did you ever like look into this? Or did you know if this was happening? And they're like, no, nobody told me that. What are you talking about?
Exactly.
And so that's why it's like, it wasn't truly a free choice. Like they had, they felt like they had no other option, but really they were not given another option.
You don't know what you don't know.
Exactly.
And that's your body armor, Chelsea.
that makes me so mad. When I hear that, I'm like, that's seriously, like, they think that's a solution. If that was a freaking solution, we'd all be drinking body armor and having no milk supply issues. Like, how would that be? Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And meanwhile, I have PCOS. I had gestational diabetes. I had a placenta abruption. There were so many things that needed to be addressed on my end, and nobody ever took the time. And looking, like, knowing what I know now, knowing what you've taught me, it definitely makes me frustrated because I could have had the same experience with Chandler that I had with Lincoln.
And you know what? You did the best that you could at that time with the information that you had, and that's all we can do. So what I always say is why not get more information so that we can do our best?
Yep. Now I know.
Now you know. And you're going to carry that with you. You're going to carry that with you through motherhood because like it's just breastfeeding now, which seems big or doesn't seem big depending on where you sit, but you've learned how to advocate, you've learned how to trust your gut, and you're going to take that into so many other situations with your children.
Yes, for sure. And I do every single day. And I'm so proud. I'm just it's the hardest thing I've ever done. So for me to get through it and see the other side of it, I'm very proud of myself every single day.
You should be. To the moms out there listening, like you can have that feeling too. You can have that feeling where you come through the other side and you feel proud of yourself for making confident decisions.
Yep.
All right, Mama Bear, that is a wrap for today. If this episode helped you feel a little more confident or a little more prepared for breastfeeding, can I ask you a quick favor? Go ahead and leave me a review. It helps other moms find this podcast and join us in this amazing community of fierce and confident Mama Bears. And hey, if you know a friend who could use some encouragement or real talk about pregnancy, breastfeeding, and all things motherhood, share this episode with her. You've got this, Mama Bear. Trust your instincts, stay fierce, and I'll catch you in the next episode.